Hello YouTube, Basic iOS App Builder here, and welcome to my video tutorial where I teach you guys the basics of iOS app development and programming. So to get started, you're going to want to download and install Xcode from the App Store, which you can only get on Macs. And then we're going to go to Playground from there, and we're going to make a new playground named Variables, which is what we're working on today. You could store this anywhere, and then you'll see this page pops up. So the reason a playground is so great for practice is because anything you write over here on the left side will show up on the right side. If yours doesn't immediately, give it some time to load. And then, so let's go ahead and delete that. And today, we're talking about variables. So the Google definition for a variable is a storage location paired with an associated symbolic name or identifier which contains some known or unknown quantity of information referred to as a value. So to put that in English, a variable is basically a way to store information, and then we can then change this information and use this information as needed. And there are 4 different types of data we could store, manipulate, and use with variables. So the first type we're going to talk about today is an integer. So the way to declare an integer is you say the keyword var, and then you give it a name. We'll say my int, and we'll say it's of type int. And you don't really have to say it's of type int. Xcode can figure that out, but if you're just starting out, I would recommend you do. And we'll say equals 5. So now my int is equal to 5. To give you a little bit of a real-world application example, we'll set this to var my level, and we'll say of type int equals 10. And now if you type my level, you can see 10 comes up. So another thing about variables you could do is you could change them. So let's say your level jumps up 1. You gain a level, you could hit my level equals 11, and now 11 comes up. And a way this could be useful is, say you wanted to print your level is, and the way you add a variable to a print line is you say backspace parenthesis my level, and now you'll see in the bottom, if I had the parenthesis, there we go. Now you'll see it says your level is 11. So this is just one of the many ways you could use integers. It's just a way of storing a real number, which means it's not a decimal, and you could manipulate it as you go down the code. You could say it equals anything. You could say it equals 20, anything. So that's integers. We can also perform mathematical operations on integers. For example, we could say my level plus equals 1, and now you'll see it equals 21. Or we could say my level times equals 2. So now I'll times 21 by 2 and get 42. Now let's say we want to do my level divide equals 5. So we want to divide 42 by 5. We should get a decimal back, right? But remember, an integer is only a real number, which means it can't be a decimal, so we get 8 back, which isn't the true correct answer. So this is where doubles come into play. A double is the same as a integer. The only fundamental difference is that it can have a decimal at the end. So we could say equals 10.4 or something like that. So let's say we made this equal to 9, and then we did my double divide equals by 5. You see we'll get back 1.8. We'll get a decimal back. But if we made this an integer, then it would come back as 1. So let's say we wanted to store something other than numbers. That's where a string comes into play. So we'll say we'll declare a string the same way we declare a double or an integer. We say my string of type string equals hello. So now every time the code sees my string, it'll bring up the collection of characters hello. So let's give this more practical use. We could say var my name of type string equals John. Now we could say print, and we'll say your name is, and remember we do backslash parenthesis my name to insert a variable into a print line. And now you'll see in the bottom it'll come up as your name is John. And strings, just like other variables, are changeable throughout the code. So we could say my name equals Zach, or my name equals Josh. And one more thing about strings is that they can actually contain special characters too. So you could say my name equals exclamation point this star asterisk, and it's fine with that. And it can also put numbers too. So you could say you could say any numbers. Basically, a string can hold any character, but if you put a number in a string, it won't be able to perform math like it does with an integer or a double. So the last data type we're going to talk about is a Boolean. A Boolean is declared the same way as everything else, but it can only be set to true or to false. And it could still be changed though throughout the code, so we could say my bool equals false. So those are the 4 types of data. We have integers, doubles, strings, and booleans. And the more you program, you'll find the benefits of all 4 of them and end up using them all. And now the last thing we're going to talk about today is vars versus lets. There's actually 2 different ways to declare a variable, and that's by saying var, which we've been using this whole time, and we'll put it of type int equals 5, or we could say let of type int equal 10. So the fundamental difference between these 2 types of declarations is that a var is changeable, as we've seen this whole time, so we could change var to 7, let's say, and it'll be fine. But a let is a constant. So let's say we tried to change let to 12. As you can see, the code will give us an error and say, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And that's because once you declare a let, that is the value of that let for the entire time. You can't change it. So my let will always be equal to 10. This is helpful, let's say, if you have a constant for a code. Let's say it's person's age, and that person is always going to be 15 years old. Then you could just say let person's age equal 15, and this way you can't accidentally change person's age throughout the code. Every time you put person's age, you know it'll be 15. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is converting types. And I know I said earlier that the vars and the lets were the last thing we were going to talk about, but I forgot about this, so just hang with me. Okay, so say we have a int, and it's of type int, and it equals 5. And we have a double, and it's of type double, and it equals 2.5. And we want to add these together. Well, the problem is we can't do that because they're 2 separate data types. But we don't want to change this whole data to a double. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it, just in this case, into a double. And now, just for right here, for this math, will the integer equal a double? We could also do it with the double. We could say instead, we could say of type int. And now it'll be like adding an integer to another integer. Alright guys, that concludes this video. I hope I helped you learn something today. If I did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned. I'll keep adding to the series. And peace.